So today I'm gonna finish off this series about my guitar setup. So I have my 2018 Les Paul 50 standard. I believe it's 2018, either 2018 or 2019. I'll figure it out and then put something on the screen. And I'm going into today the HX Stomp, the Line 6 HX Stomp. And HX Stomp is going to be the focus of the video today. So yes, I have the NuX Golden Horse and I have the 2 Notes Revolt on the pedal board, but I'm not using these, and my guitar is plugged directly into the HX Stomp today. So we're using the direct patches and we're going out into this wonderful thing here, the Mooer Tube Engine. And the Mooer Tube Engine's been present in the first 2 guitar rig videos that I did. This thing is amazing. And basically what we're going through is, for all of you guys who are kind of skeptical of the sounds that you get from a modeling device like a Helix, an HX Stomp, the new Pod Go from Line 6 that came out, anything like that, pick your poison, the GT1000 from Boss, which I was kind of choosing between when I ended up going with the HX Stomp, and just the ease of use and some of the other functions and some of the sounds of the effects were the reason that I ended up going with the HX Stomp over that. And you know, there's other modelers out there. NuX also has theirs. There are some others, too many for me to list right now. But if you're kind of skeptical of using one of those, you know, like someone like me, when I first got this HX Stomp, I came from using amps. And the first, I don't know, 15 years of me playing guitar, I didn't even use effects. Like, I came from the whole, first from just playing punk guitar, so I wouldn't even use a reverb on an amp. And I'd have some nasty sounding cheap solid state amp. Not even really too worried about getting the best sound out of it because everybody I was playing with had a crappy kind of sludgy sound anyway. And then going into I got into Hanoi Rocks, Dogs D'Amour stuff a lot. And from there, you know, that led me to listening to a lot of Rolling Stones because they got a lot of their influence from the Rolling Stones. I was also listening to the Joneses, so a lot of sleaze rock, you know, like Johnny Thunders and the Heartbreakers, who would be in Hollywood Brats, New York Dolls, all of that stuff. Dr. Feelgood, Eddie and the Hot Rods, the pub rock stuff. And you know those guitar tones are very, very traditional guitar tones. Nice guitar tones. Tone is in your fingers kind of guitar tones though. You know, Hanoi Rocks used a lot of a little bit of delay you could hear in there and some reverbs. And on the Dogs D'Amour stuff, you could definitely hear it because of the production in the 80s. But really, they were in that lineage where everyone's influenced by Keith Richards. Their hair just got a little bit longer. Their guitar setups got a little more drawn out. But me kind of coming from that school, I just played without effects. And I thought the tone was in my fingers. And me and guitarists like me that I was around were always these effects guys, they just play the effects. They're not even playing guitar. Needless to say, I've come very far from there now, and I'll use any effect to get the kind of timbre that I'm looking for, to get the type of feeling that I'm looking for in a song. But you evolve as a guitar player, as a musician, as a songwriter, and so does the gear that you use. But when I ended up going with this thing, I was actually surprised at the sounds that you could get out of it. And I got a lot of purist friends still. I have friends who play country music. I have friends who play traditional rock styles. And I'll post a video of me just jamming on my Instagram or something. And I've got tones out of this HX Stomp that specifically one of my country guitar playing friends heard this tone that I got. And it was just the HX Stomp with the 2 Notes. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the name of the software, but the 2 Notes software that everyone uses to get your cab simulations in a DAW. And Logic Pro X is what I use. And when I told him that, he was so surprised. But that's obviously in a recorded context. Now, the beauty of pairing the HX Stomp with the Mooer Tube Engine is this is a 20-watt all-tube power amp. It's very, very clean. And I'm going out of this into my trusty Quilter Block Dock 10. So it's a 10-inch guitar speaker made by Quilter. It's awesome. I love it. And let me just play you what the Mooer Tube Engine sounds like without the HX Stomp. So I'm going to bypass the HX Stomp. You bypass that by pressing these two buttons here. Now I'm in bypassed mode. So that's what it sounds like bypassed. It is just a very, very clean tube preamp. And let's turn it all the way up. So it gets pretty loud on its own. That's without any type of preamp attached to it. But with the HX Stomp, and obviously with my other rigs, which you guys have heard if you watch the other two videos, it gets way louder. It's giggable. You can push this into distortion on its own, so you get that traditional, like when you play through a Marshall amp, what you want is the power amp distortion, right? That's like that traditional hard rock guitar sound. You can push this into power amp distortion and get that. So this thing is wonderful for that. But we're just gonna go through the HX Stomp, and I'm just gonna use the direct presets for this. So let me turn off bypass. And right now I was in a direct patch that I really like, but I'm gonna just circle back and go through some, these are the stock direct presets. So this patch is US double NRM. I think the NRM is for normal. I'm gonna, throughout the video, when I play a preset and I stick with it for a little bit, I'm gonna push this forward and I'll zoom into it for you guys so you can see which preset. These are just the stock ones. I'm not gonna play my presets today because my presets for the HX Stomp don't tend to use any preamps or cabs from the HX Stomp, since I'm usually playing through this guy and I'm usually using the 2 Notes Revolt or the Orange Terror stamp with it. But so yeah, that's a very nice sounding clean patch. It is Weeper, which I believe that's a wah. I don't use the expression pedal. There's also a volume pedal here and it's set to 100 with a linear curve. There's a red squeeze compressor on this, and there's a US double norm preamp. I'm not sure which preamp that is, but if you're really into that, you can figure it out. And then it's got a spring reverb on it. So that's this patch, and this patch sounds awesome. I'm gonna switch views We're gonna go to another patch here. Let's see, S6A30, so an AC30. This one's also got a deranged master, so I think that's based on a range master. Let me go ahead and flip this forward so you can see the patch. I'll zoom into it in post. And let me kick on that range master boost. That's a nice sounding patch too. I'm gonna struggle to not go through all of these. So what this one is, it's got a wah also, it's got a volume pedal also, and it's got the deranged master, which I kicked on. It's got the S6A30, which is the preamp, which is an AC30 emulating preamp. At the end of this one, it's got a hall reverb. Let's move on to another patch. Called the Cali Rectifier. So I guess it's a Mesa Boogie dual rectifier based patch. Mesa Boogie being from Cali and the dual rectifier being one of their popular amps. It's got an 808 screamer on it that I can turn on or off. So it's on, it's off. So yeah, that's with the 808 scream, which is a tube screamer on. Let's see what else is in this patch, and then I'm going to move on. Okay, there's a Weeper wah, there's a volume pedal. That seems to be a trend here. There's the 808 screamer, Cali rectifier preamp. There's a 412 V30 on this. Let me turn that off actually. And then there's a room. Something you have to watch out for. Like the first few presets that we tried did not have cab sims on, and this Cali rectifier does. So before I play these, I'm gonna check to make sure that they don't have any cab sims on, because obviously we're using a cab. So this one's called the Jazz Rivet. So it's a jazz chorus, a JC-120 patch. My favorite combo amp, to be honest. Like over all the tube amps, I do like little tweed amps, but you just can't go wrong with a jazz chorus in my opinion. So let me change the view. So on this, there's a chorus and there's a transistor tape echo. I'm gonna kick the volume up. this patch. It's very clean, jazz chorusy. I have a JC-40. It's the only traditional combo amp that I've actually held on to. For all of my like overdriven type sounds, I like to use this rig. Also, sometimes I just slave the power amp of the jazz chorus and use this rig, and it sounds amazing through it. If any of you guys want to see a video on that setup, I'll show you. I mean, it's kind of overkill. It's kind of superfluous. It's a bit superfluous. Like, it's not necessary to do that when you have an amazing jazz chorus, and that thing sounds phenomenal. It's extremely loud. But when you have things and you can pair them together and get different sounds, why not go for it, you know? So let's see what's in this patch. Okay, there's a volume pedal at the beginning. There is an LA Studio comp. So you guys know what that's based on. I'm guessing based on like a LA2A, I believe. Unless there's some other comp from LA that it takes its name for. But you can search that on the Line 6 website. There's the Jazz Rivet 120 preamp. There's a 70s chorus. There's a transistor tape. And there's a plate reverb. So let me just push this forward. I'll zoom in on it so you guys can see the patch. And yeah, I'm gonna crank up the preamp and this amp here. Now you also get a presence control here, and it makes quite a bit of a difference. So here it is all the way down. Here it is at 9 o'clock. Here it is at 12 o'clock. That sounds pretty good on this preset. Here we are at 3 o'clock. That's really sparkly, and here we are all the way open. Very bright. Very present. Down here past the 12th fret, it's a little too much for my ears, so I'm going to go in between 3. I'm going to go to about 1 o'clock. So yeah, that's that jazz chorus patch. I'm going to turn the volume down because who knows what the next patch may hold. Let's see how this sounds. So that's called the Cartographer. I'm not going to spend any time on that. Mandarin 80, I actually like this one. I've actually played with this one before. Transistor tape on it. patch that I've played with before. Sounds really good through this. Like, I would gig with that sound 100%. So the last thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to my patches that I created. It's called Revolt Effects Loop. And what I've done here is I've created a patch where I've got my 2 notes Revolt in the effects loop. And the patch starts off with a Rochester comp, and then it's got the industrial fuzz. Next, it's got the AIRA parent overdrive. Then it's got the effects loop where the 2 notes Revolt 2 preamp is. And then it's got a chorus, it's got a transistor tape, and it's got a spring reverb. And basically I set this up so that if I'm playing a gig with this setup, I can play any of my songs by kicking on whatever. And on the foot switches, I have the fuzz and I have the delay. So I'm going to turn off the fuzz, turn off the delay. I'm going to activate the clean channel of the 2 notes Revolt, which is based on a Fender Bassman. And let's hear what it sounds like. That's like one that I'm working on. It's got another part, but I won't play it. But yeah, that's my patch. So now I'm gonna activate actually, instead of the Minotaur, or instead of the boost in here, I tend to use the boost on the 2 notes Revolt. So we got, and it's just a subtle little boost right now. It's nice. So that delay, transistor tape. I've got a slap back, which is pretty much all I ever use. To, you know, the Marshall Plexi side. Kick on the boost. So that's pretty much it for this video. I hope it translated well on the camera. I'm sure it will. This thing sounds great. And if you really have resignations about using a modeler, and the beauty is there's even cheaper modelers that you can get and those will even sound great. Like I've even messed around and gone through my iPad and into this Mooer Tube amp, and it actually does. It adds a little bit of warmth, a little bit of saturation, gives you this presence control that you can tweak with, and it'll make those sounds actually sound like you're playing through a guitar amp. And you could be confident enough to play this HX Stomp or even one of the like cheap Zoom modelers at a gig, and it's going to sound like guitar. Which the reality is, your audience nowadays, they're not really going to know the difference. Everyone's so used to listening to either recorded music or even when they see a live band. Most of your audiences are going to be used to seeing live shows and hearing music that has been manipulated in some way or another. And that could be people singing into a mic where there's auto-tune directly on the mic. And that can also be in the form of guitar rigs where most of the time your cab is going to be mic'd. It's going to go through the PA system, and your amp is only going to be playing behind you so that you can hear yourself on stage to reassure you. And everyone in your audience is used to going to these big shows where, you know, some people are actually using pods and just hiding them. Some people have everything going through some type of modeling setup anyway, like really big artists. I think like the Edge from U2 is using those universal audio pedals that mimic whichever amplifiers. I think there's like a blackface Fender one, and there's a couple more of those. So yeah, you know, if you struggle to get into like the modern world of guitar, like I feel like a setup like this is a good way to get into it. And the beauty of it is, once you get used to playing through this and you get used to how good the HX Stomp can sound with something like the Mooer Tube Engine, and there's other power amps out there. There aren't a lot of tube power amps that are in this form factor. Like this is like a 5-pound little amplifier that fits on top of this 10-inch speaker cab, you know? So it's really convenient. And if you played this through like a big old cab, like a 412 or even a 212, it would be extremely loud. But there are also solid state power amps like the Orange Pedal Baby 100, and that thing sounds pretty good too. If you get used to playing through something like that, the next step is you being able to, you know, take a rig like this and play solely through this into the PA, which is super, super convenient. I haven't done it for a gig yet, but I have done it for recordings. Just plug this setup straight into the computer and got some amazing sounds out of it. And especially when you pair it with the 2 Notes Torpedo software. That's what it is. I couldn't remember the name of it before, but yeah. So that's the third version of my guitar rig. Obviously, I've talked about the JC-40, and at the moment, I'm not planning to make a video on it, but if that's something you guys are interested in, I will make a video on that. Lately, I have been working on recording vocals, and I've acquired the ART voice channel. And well, I've been getting some really good sounds out of it. I have had some struggles with latency on my projects, but it's not actually because of the voice channel. I've discovered that it was actually because I'm using a bunch of universal audio plugins, and I had, you know, sometimes when I record a song, I'll start mixing the instruments before I even record the vocal. It's just, you just get antsy, like you get that sound, it sounds really nice, and you know you shouldn't mix it before you have the vocal in there at all, because the vocal's gonna come in and change the context of everything. But, so, you know, sometimes I still make that mistake, and I'm not a professional engineer, not a professional mixer. I am a hobbyist musician, and so I make the same mistakes that hobbyist musicians do, because I'm not being paid to make this stuff for the most part. I'm making it because I love to make music. It's one of the few things in life that gives me overwhelming joy, and that I want to continue to do for the rest of my life in any capacity possible. So I'm always learning, and I do make those mistakes, but the latency had stopped me dead in my tracks, and I realized I had like so many plugins that was what was contributing to the latency. I thought my interface was starting to malfunction, which was crazy, because you guys know that I love the Arturia audio fuse that I've been using, and I was using the preamp of the voice channel going into input number 3 on the back of the Audio Fuse Rev 2, which bypasses the preamps of the Audio Fuse. And those preamps are great on their own, but the voice channel has a gate, it has a compressor, it has a de-esser, it has an EQ section, it has, you know, pads and all sorts of things. And I am maybe at the end of this, I'll give you guys a little snippet of the song that I've been working on. It doesn't have a title at the moment, but it is the song from that video where I made a song that was inspired by the band Dope Lemon.
Days passing faster, apprehension hit by laughter. You thought time was your friend, but now you're edging towards the end. Funny how time flies, regretting useless sighs. You did it for the prize, and life has cut you down to size.
And if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate everyone who takes the time to watch these things. Peace.